Hello, everyone. This is Rosemary Jane, and we are in today's session of using versus creating Schoology course content. My name is Rosemary Jane, and I am with the Learning Technologies team for CPS ITM. The title on your calendar actually says using and creating, but my original title of this was using versus creating. I'm going to show both today. And so on your agenda, we're going to look at, first of all, just my typical recommendations for how we access Schoology. And then we're going to look at adding instructional materials. This is adding, and this is sort of the creating piece of it. And then we're going to be looking more at the using side of things as well. I'll have some time for questions and answer, and I will provide a contact hours and evaluation link at the end of this session. So with that, we're going to get started, and I'm going to go over some recommendations first. So, all right. I do recommend that when you are doing anything for work, staff members, or for school students, that you are using the Chrome web browser. Most of our applications that we use work best in Chrome. Many of our applications authenticate with Google. So if you launch the Chrome browser, that's going to be your best bet. You can use other browsers. You would need to sign into Google, and you can sign into Google on those, but the recommendation is you use the Chrome browser. Now, when you're using Chrome, it's also recommended that you make sure that you are signed into the browser itself, you're signed in, and sync is turned on. So keep an eye out for that at the top. Just want to clarify that the icon at the bottom here, this is just showing that I'm signed into Google, signed into Google products, but signed in up here, this little icon is signed into the Chrome web browser. So do make sure you're signed in and sync is turned on. If you're not, or somebody else in your home is signed in, if somebody else is signed in, you can always go into settings. You would just turn it off or clear them out. But if nobody is signed in, then you would just click up here, click turn on sync. It'll prompt you to sign in with your district email address. For staff, it's at cpsboe.k12.oh.us. For students, it's at cincinnatips.org. You want to make sure sync is turned on. It will prompt you, asking you, it'll give you some information, and you want to make the selection link data, because you'll be linking together your browser history, your saved passwords, bookmarks, and extensions. And then you can just launch Clever. Clever will appear right here. Sorry, 1 second. Let me change something. One moment. Okay, here we go. All right, so Clever appears right here in the icon. You can ignore all the other extensions. We push out Read and Write, we push out Clever. You can launch Clever, and then you'll just log in with Google. Make sure you log into your school account. Bear with me 1 minute through this step, because I will, my Clever account appears differently than yours. I always go to my friend Rachel's. Oh, it says that I'm in hers. Okay, well, I don't want to end that. Oh my. All right, this is not going well. I'm having a day, guys. There we go. Okay, so when you log into Clever, and let me start that over from the get-go, make sure you're signed in, sync is on, you can access your district extensions. Clever is one of those. And then when you sign in, Schoology, if you favorited it, should be right at the top. Recommend you launch Schoology from there. If you do not launch from Clever, just make sure that you go to schoology.cps-k12.org for staff and students. Parents would go to schoology.com. So make sure you're going to the right link. If you happen to go to a link that says app.schoology.com, that is not the right link either. So Clever takes you to the appropriate links. All right, now that we are in Schoology, we covered the best way to access it. We're going to look at adding instructional materials. And I'm just going to walk us through these steps: creating folders for organization, placing materials in the folder, setting due dates, so a calendar is populated, and adding links to websites and files. And what I'm going to do is show that all extremely quickly. So I'm going to go into one of my practice courses. I'll pick this one. All right, you can kind of ignore what's going on up here. Up at the top, when we add materials, this is the creating content. Now, we do recommend that you create a folder first. so that you can place your items in it and get organized. It'll look more like this. This folder has items inside of it. Versus if you make everything a separate link, you will have a hot mess on your hand like this. This is one of my demo accounts that I just never get around to deleting things. But the recommendation is first that you add materials and add a folder. Within your folder, so add materials, add a folder. This is just to get you started with being organized. You do have to title your folder. So give it a title. You can color code it as well. You can add as much information as you want. You can describe what's in the folder, so text descriptions. You can do a little bit of editing on here with, you know, bold it. You could make a bulleted list, maybe what they're going to do inside of there. One thing I really like is you can add image. So I will just add one real quickly. I'll add a Bitmoji image. All right. You can resize it so it's just the size of a little icon. All right. So also too, your folder, you can have it be open for a certain amount of time. You can even have it be published or unpublished, but you could have it unpublished until a certain start date or during a date range. So that would mean the folder opens and closes. So you have lots of things you can do in creating content and organizing that content with a folder. Now I'm just going to hit create. One thing for you to bear in mind is that everything when you build in Schoology, when you're creating, drops to the bottom. So if you have a lot of stuff like I do, you will have to move and drag, and it'll take a while. So I'm just going to drop it here. I just wanted to show you with the image on it, it changes the clickable space. So I'm going to show you another folder, like this remote learning folder. You'll notice that my cursor, as I move around, even when I'm here, until I hit the blue hypertext right here, I don't have a selection. See, the cursor changes to that finger. That means I can select. But when you add an image to your folder, the entire space becomes clickable. This is really important for your young learners or any learners who have fine motor issues. If you add an image or text, it makes this clickable space much bigger. They don't have to hone in and hit that hyperlink. So images can be a great way to make your folder have a more clickable space. I just realized I have to zoom weird. I'm going to go back up to the top, though, to the sample I have up here. All right. Within that folder, you can start to add materials. You can expand the folder once you have materials in it. And it's got things like I've added an assignment, an external tool, a discussion, a link. And I'm going to go through these real briefly, but I just want to also point out that you can view folder contents without actually having to go into the folder to reduce your navigation steps. I'm going to go into this folder now, and I'm going to look at adding materials. Now, today I'm not actually going to be showing you the how-tos of building everything out. I'm showing you that using versus creating. So everything I'm showing you right now is creating. When I add materials and I add an assignment, a test or quiz, an assessment, bio link or external tool, discussion page, media album, all of these items I'm creating. I can create them from scratch, so to speak. Now these are item types, like an assignment is a specific item. You can make it a Google Drive assignment if you want. That kind of changes the interaction on it. Test or quiz has a specific format set up, so does assessment. So you can explore these. I'm going to throw in one that I don't usually include in my sessions, just for a little variety. I'm going to add a media album. I'm creating content here. I'm going to give it a title, Sample Media Album. I can write any description that I want. So this could be to share photos from our work at home. And then I can either individually assign it. I can create it as unpublished if I don't have time to keep working on it right now. I can enable, the default is enable comments. I can click that so comments are turned off, or I can leave them turned on. And then this one I really like. You can turn that off to where only you as the teacher can add media, but I like it open because this is a place where your students can add media. Then of course I can also copy it over to other courses. I'm going to hit create. And I like in Schoology that when you add something new, it has you hit create. So I'll attach one image in here for now. I'll put a picture of Dr. Ross Turpo. All right. I'm adding that media. And then just so you're aware, I can write a comment on the media, or I can actually go in and edit a caption. So I can add a caption. Yeah, simple caption here. Save. Okay. And then when I go back into my sample course materials, I'll go all the way back. Sorry about the sirens, guys. I live on a main road. Mute. Okay, that can be super loud over the screen. Sorry about that. All right, sample course materials, the media album sitting there. So I have created something here again. We'll go back into my, just so you know, the teacher can continue to add media, but students can also do it as well. Going back into my folder, adding materials, I'll add one more thing. I'll add a page. It's one of my favorite things to add. Sample page. I'm going to do something cool. I'm going to insert a, you'll see what I'm adding. Hold on. Where'd it go? Huh. Oh, I have it in here. Okay. So I can add pictures of anything I want, resize them to my page. My page can have information. I could, if I teach high school, my page could have lengthy descriptions of what we're doing, why we're doing it. Could be a syllabus, any number of things. I'm just going to hit create. I like in Schoology, the button actually says create. You are creating these items. So these are all items that I have created. Let's take a look back over here on the agenda, keep me on track. I created a folder for organization. I've placed materials in my folder. I'm going to show you setting a due date. I know because this is part of the work you do as you're creating any object. This is also going to apply later when I show you editing or customizing used content you're using. But I'll go into this sample video assignment here. Click edit. Now down here, if I don't put a due date on it, oh, you know what? I have a completion rule set on this folder, so I actually can't. Let me turn off completion. This is the problem when I borrow content from another session I did. Take off the completion rules. Okay, there we go. Now I can go into my assignment, and I can edit it, and I can go down to, well, I don't know if it just didn't take yet or what. Y'all, I'm having some problems today. Whew. My screen is not being cooperative. All right, I'm going to go out of this folder. I'll go to this sample assignment, edit. All right, if you add a due date, so I'm going to click on the calendar, and I'm going to say that it's due next Friday. When I hit save changes, oh, time is required to, okay, fine. There we go, there's the due date. I didn't put the time in, date and time. Then you can see when I go back to the course, come on. All right, for myself and my students, it does show what's upcoming. Really a nice thing about that as well, I should have made it like tomorrow because it probably won't show up on my main screen. My upcoming, it does appear here. You can ignore the number of things that I'm in. It's kind of ridiculous. But for your students, they're not going to be in as many classes as I am. So as soon as I log into Schoology, my upcoming due dates are right there. And if I go to that item, June 30th, what day did I make that? I made it the 26th. There we go. So that sample assignment, the students don't even have to navigate to the course. They can just go to it. All right, so I think we're rounding out, adding links to websites and files, sorry. On our assignments as well, and this one I'm going to go back. Course materials. Again, we're still under the topic of creating content. I will use this discussion as an example for this one. Edit. And now I'm just going to add a link to this. There's a link down here at the bottom. Let's say that I want them to come to our Google meeting. There we go. I just need this link. It's actually a really bad example. I'm not going to use it because I don't want to send them to a Google meeting. Let's say I want to give them this link instead. Share, copy this link, drop the link, and then the title, I'll name it this week's agenda. It could be your choice board for the week or your activities they have to do. It could be any number of things. I can hit attach and I've got a link there. You can also add a link right into the body as well. Here, whoops, I hit the wrong one here. I can put in a link, and so I can drop that link there, paste, give it a title, this week's agenda. And so now that text appears there, it appears down here. And then I can even get real jazzy and remember that image I added to the other one? Resize it. I can even add the link to an image as well. So right there, I'm linking content, hit save changes, and then I can just also link out to another website. I'm going to spare you that. You would just literally copy and paste the URL and do everything I just showed you in that one. So that does cover everything in creating content. Now, the reason why I kind of blew through that really quickly is because I want to get more to using content, resources, sharing with your team, school, or district, and I want to get to this customizing and editing to meet your learners' needs. So I think it's a fantastic thing to build out your course content. What I really don't want to see everybody doing is reinventing the wheel where everybody is all creating their fragmented different items and objects. So instead of creating content, there is a little button down here at the bottom that says import from resources. Let me see if I can zoom that for you. So in Add Materials, when you are using all of these links, you are creating. When you import from resources, you're using other already created content. So I'm going to click on that. Okay. The one I'm going to go to for this example will be under group resources. Now, when you pull import from resources, you can pull your own content that you've been creating in your own resources. So you can still be pulling in content you created. Just one in my eye. Excuse me. Okay. But if you go to group, then you are pulling in content that others have created or shared. Under group, I'm connected to a lot of groups, but if you collapse that list, there's also school resources. I see this being a very large place we'll be able to leverage sharing out across our schools. And we'll talk about how that can happen more toward the end when we talk about sharing. But in the school resources, there is a resource collection for every school. I'm going to go down all the way down to Woodford as one example. And just so you know, Woodford has added all of these resources that any teacher can pull in. So a teacher could pull this whole folder in, or they could go into the folder and just pull the document in. Let me back up again. So I could import that resource, click import. Remember, this was from a school resource collection. And now I didn't create anything. I've just added it to my course. I'm using already created content. Let me go back into that import from resources and show you a few more examples. Okay. Again, I'm in import from resources, and I'm going to go to group. Sorry, I have something in my eye. Drive me bonkers. Okay. I'm going to go to group again. Now I'm going to collapse my groups because I want to get to the schools. But we also have Cincinnati Public Schools. We have our own resource collection. So yes, these are all our schools, but CPS has our own district resource collection as well. One of the resource collections you might have seen during COVID is this for teachers, templates, and materials you can use now. I added this, I updated it. I added it sometime, I think in April. So we can click on that. And there are some resources in here that you can just use. I'm going to select a variety of them. So I don't want this whole thing because you should, if it's in a folder, you should click on it and see what's in there. You can clearly see I did not want to pull all this content over. This is week by week. And then let me go even into a specific one. There's all these grades. So I'm going to drill in and I'm just going to do first grade ELA. Okay. And I'm going to decide, yep, I want all of those items, so I can pull them over one or two ways. I can select them all, or I can back out one level and say, well, I want that whole first grade ELA. So I'm going to take the whole folder over and just import it as one folder. If I click on import, it's verifying I want to import those items. I'm going to click import. And now you can see that because I pulled the whole folder over, it came over in a folder. So it's already organized for me. If I wanted to pull objects out of folders I pulled over, if I'm using these folders, I could take these out. Like I might say, you know what, this discussion, I want this to be what we open with. So I can just pull it out and rearrange it. So everything previous that I showed you was creating, with the exception of this assignment. Actually, I'm going to drag this down. Sorry. But this sample video, the weekly class discussion, a link to course analytics, the sample media album, the page, those are all things I created. But now, using the button, add materials and import from resources, I've now pulled over content I want to use. All right, this is where we have a lot more power in working together. So now I'm going to take a look at this. And of course, ideally, you've looked at the content first, you know what you're pulling over. If you didn't and you just want to explore it in your course, you could always go in and unpublish that folder. And then your students and families are not seeing the folder. Oh, it didn't unpublish. Okay, there we go. Why is it not unpublishing? I hate it when things don't work as expected. All right, you can unpublish the folder. I don't know why it's not doing it right now. But then I could go in and I could start exploring the materials. Like there's a parent and student guide. And so maybe I'm reading this and I decide, you know what, this font, this does not work for me and my students. This is way too small. Well, remember, this is a parent guide, but still, I'd like to bump it up. I'd like to edit and change it. And let me show you where I am in the agenda now. So we looked at group resources and we looked at school resources. I guess I'll add that word, group and school. I started with school resources. We're not getting into sharing this yet. I will even change the order of this. Those of you who've been in a lot of my sessions know I hardly ever stay in order on an agenda. All right, so we're looking at resources. We put them in, and I'm just going to put the word import from resources. I'll put that there. That's what the button is. Now we're going to customize and edit them to meet our learners' needs. So going back over to Schoology, I'm in this and I'm going to go to edit page. So anything that I use that I pull over from a resource collection, I can now edit. Bear in mind, it sometimes, depending on your Wi-Fi connection, Schoology, whatever, it can take a little while for this to load. Just be patient. So right here, one thing that I don't want to do is I don't want to change things that are headings or paragraphs. Just so you're aware, these were built very intentionally. Screen readers like Read and Write will recognize headings and passages like paragraphs differently, and we'll call those out, and it helps a student who needs that accommodation have that. So you don't want to change a heading unless, maybe you don't like the colors. But like this font being so small, I'm going to leave it on a paragraph, but I'm going to bump it up to like a 16 or maybe even 18 point font, whatever makes sense for you. Now this is a parent page. I'm bumping it up as if I'm looking at this for, an elementary age student. You could also get down here for resources for parents, and you might have my own resource and something that you've either created or that you always refer to in your classroom. Questions, contact your student's teacher. This is very generic. I might want to say my preferred contact methods, and then list those. Now again, I'm going to bump this font up just because I like a larger font. All right, my preferred contact methods. This is where I'm going to use what already is made for me. Did you know there's something in Schoology that you can use that will share all your contact information? You can go to your profile, and instead of having to write it into every resource, you could just edit your profile information with your preferred contact information. So you can just go to edit on your profile, and then you could say right in your profile, best way to reach, to contact me. Now, because my audience is CPS district employees, I'm going to put in Google Chat. So chat.google.com, control copy. So now I'm taking that link from that website and I'm just going to paste it in here. Hit save changes. All right, my profile has been updated. Let's take a look at it now. Okay, I can also put in, I could have a blog going here. I could have my own updates, but this is my profile. Obviously, you would tell them, you know, the best way to contact you. I highly recommend you use your Schoology direct messages. If you look at this, it actually does prompt them for how to send a direct message. My preferred contact methods, use Schoology direct message. And then under here, or learn more on my profile. Okay, and then I'm just going to take that word profile and I'm going to link it to my Schoology profile. Oh, that's to Google Chat, my bad. There's my profile. So everything has its own unique URL. Copy that. And I'm going to make that word profile a hyperlink to my profile. So you can kind of see how to do this. Things that don't appear as hyperlinks, you might want to go in and hyperlink them. So this is just me now customizing. It's just me customizing links and making things more specific for my students. I have no idea what just happened. I don't think that saved my changes. Huh. Well, that sucks. Sorry, guys. I've been having computer issues all morning, and so I think it's me. I don't think it's Google or Schoology, but my computer's been really buggy. So I've restarted it. But anyway, let me get back on track with the agenda. So, and let me make sure, yeah, no questions yet. Good. All right. So now we looked at customizing. I'm going to customize maybe like one more thing. It did appear that it finally unpublished this. So I might have this passage question quiz, and I might want to edit this. I might want to make it graded in my class. You know, I might need to change the due date or something. So I can do those sorts of things. It's not published, so that's why it's not letting me do this. Let's save changes. Now, this passage though, this font, this is supposed to be for first grade. This does not work for me for a first grader. I want them to practice the passage. So now I'm going to go in, highlight the font, and bump it way up. I mean, I'm probably going to put that on like a 24. This is for my young first grade students. So I want these things to be more age appropriate. So there's some nice big font. I also might want to bring in an image. We're going to pretend that this image goes with this content. I'm attaching a file. I will throw in, I'll throw in another Bitmoji, why not? All right, so I can resize that. I do want to just, I won't get into all the visual customizations, but you can wrap your text if you wanted to. If you put an image description, the screen reader will read that to students. So there's things you can do with your images to make it customized, but that kind of gets into a different training topic. Right now, what I looked at doing was, and let me, the options here, I might want to decide, well, I don't want my first graders to have 4 options. I only want them to have 3 options. So I'm going to, remove that option. Choice 4, how do I do this again? No. What's doing? Remove blanks, there we go. So I cleared it out and now I've reduced it to just 3 options. I'm gonna hit save, and maybe too, like it says, try again, look at line 2, try again, look at line 2. Maybe I wanna give them other feedback. I can do that. Maybe I don't just wanna say great job. First of all, that font is teeny tiny, so I might wanna bump it up. And then maybe I wanna give them like, an image or something like that. So I can customize all of these things. So what you notice that I just did, I took a parent-student guide and I took a quiz, and I didn't create those at all. All that I did was go in and customize and edit them to better fit either my teaching style or my students' needs. So we looked at school resources. I am going to pull in a group resource to show you the difference. Let me back out again. I'm working in my folder. This folder is getting awful long, so I might want to start to have some subfolders in here. I'll call this one for families. And then I'll make another one and I'll call it for students. You can organize in any kind of way that you want. But then I can drag and drop, and you may not be aware of this, but I can actually drag and drop and just kind of hover and then place it inside of there as well. So it may go something like this. Now, even in this, there was that parent guide, so I might want to pull that out and put that up in this guide. So right now, all of this content here, all I created was the folders, and I'm pulling the content that I imported from resources. This is for my teacher. I'll put this in my for students folder. Okay, I can drag it into a subfolder or I can keep it out separately. You can see by the gray outline, I know it's probably not super easy for you to see. Let me zoom in a little bit. But as I'm dragging this, I can either make it a subfolder item, or I can just have it be its own item inside the folder. I can take this whole folder and make that appear first if I want. So I'm using content that's already made. I'm customizing that content and I'm reorganizing that content. So I'll move this assignment into for students. I'll move this sample page. I'll pretend this is for my families. My media album, that's for my students. And so on. I'm not going to actually reorganize the whole thing. I am going to drag this up to the top for families. I do recommend any course creation that you do, anything that you are designing, that you have something explicitly for your parents. All right, collapse all of that. Zoom back out. Boy, that already looks a lot cleaner, right? And it's very clear. This is for the families and this is for my students. I would also recommend that as you are creating organizational structures like this, you keep your folders consistent. Maybe in every new module you build, you always have your folder for families in green or whatever color you want, and students are always a certain color. You can always reorganize. But everything that I did in my for student folder, well, not everything, I mixed it now. So I did a nice job of taking the two types of materials. Those I created, created materials, and those materials I used and customized, and I reorganized those materials. So I want to move next into sharing the, no, I'm sorry. I did say I was going to show you importing a group resource. So I will go into my 4 families folder. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Okay. And I want to say that I'm going to add this visual image that a group has. So I'm going to go down to import from resources again. This time though, I'm going to stay in group and I'm going to go to the early childhood group. Now, groups for the most part are, excuse me, groups for the most part you have to join where school resources are already there for you. So, so here's the early childhood group. This is a template that I wanted to pull in. So I'm going to pull in this resources for families and import it. Import. This was designed as an inline page with clickable images, but right away, I want to edit some content because at first, and this content, remember, I told you the goal is I'm going to customize and edit. Oops. So as that comes in, you know, we're not in remote learning anymore, so I might decide to get rid of that and instead link out to something else. So I do want to go, here's our CPS. I wanted to go to our school website with the update on future of schools, but give me 1 second. I'm going to pull that up on another screen. It's going super slow. All right. So let's say I want to give my parents this resource for back to school. Then I can get that. But maybe I'm going to take an image off of here. So okay. I want to link them to this. So I'm going to save this. Save. All right. So now in my used collection or my used item, this is a used resource for parents. I'm going to go in and I'm going to insert that image I just snipped. It comes in whatever size it was saved as. So I'm going to resize it immediately. That's too small. Just so you're aware, when you bring in images, it adds a blank space. That's great if you want to put a title above it, but if not, just delete it. So then this, I'm going to link it to this resource now. Oops. I'm going to copy, so this is taking a website link, and I'm going to paste that, link that to the image. And now instead of remote learning, since we're past that time now, I hope, this is CPS back to school plans. And now I have customized this, make it a little bigger. And then I can just go down and hit save changes. Now I've got this template that I pulled in from ECE, from the early childhood group, but it is customized to the link I wanted to change it to. And that could apply for anything. Like maybe I don't use Class Dojo, so I'm going to get that out of there and replace it with something else. So that is how we do that. So how do we get those items? Well, we best get those items by sharing. I want to show you how we can share. When you're sharing with your school or the district, you're more receiving. So we go into that, add materials, import from resources, and we're either pulling it out of a group we're already a member of. For example, I'm going to do a high school example in a moment. Okay. I'm going to do a high school example, CPS ELA headquarters. I don't have to just use Schoology created materials. ELA headquarters also has the Pearson My Perspectives. The entire program is in Schoology. So I can go in there and I'll just imagine I'm a 7th grade ELA teacher. So I want to go into grade 7 and I decide, okay, this is the entire thing. I just want to go into a unit I want to put unit 1. Let's see, do I want the whole thing? Nope, I just want to open up with unit introduction and the first the first unit. I'll also put in this resource for students. And this you want to rely on your training from your ELA teams, your curriculum teams when you get into using the content-based materials. But again, I'm not creating anything for Pearson or my perspectives. I'm using content from there. So I can import this. Click import. It's letting me know that these are LTI content. It needs to be configured. Again, all of that, don't worry about that. Your ELA teams will give you directions specific to using that material. But I've got these down here now. So I might make a subfolder and call it, 7th grade ELA online learning resources. And then I could even make subfolders inside of that, module it out. If I wanted to, I could create it to publish on a certain date. So I could pull all those resources over in advance. I can use all the stuff I already created. You know how I showed you that I'm just going to take the one module? I could pull it all over and then organize it into folders that publish on a date. For now, I'll just hit create. So I created a folder, but I didn't create any content. I am taking, I'm taking existing content from my ELA headquarters. Sorry, being weird. Oh, I accidentally put it in for families. Whoops. I'll show you how I can reorganize that as well. So I can just grab this Unit 1 introduction and I can place it inside the 7th grade ELA lesson folder. Oops. Just drag and drop. And then what I can do, like this too, I can, since I put it in the wrong folder, I accidentally put it in for families. Well, then I can just expand that folder and I can say, oh, whoops, that was supposed to go down here. And I can drag and move it. All right, so that's pulling. That's how I can pull for my school. But if I want to say, well, I made this really good. I pulled all this Pearson content. It's nicely organized and I want to share it with somebody. Then I can go into resources. And this is sort of, this takes a lot of different directions. If you are an admin in a group, you can add to that group's resources. So if I go to, I'm going to go back to it again, the early childhood one, I am an admin there, so I can add resources. Let me go to one that I know I'm probably not an admin of. I think this 3D Print Club. Maybe I'm an admin there too. My district admin status might let me add to anything. I don't know. I'm trying to think of one I would not be an admin in. maybe my admin status gives me this. Anyway, if you don't have an add resources button, it's because you're not an admin, but you can share out in a group. But what you can also do, forget about the group resources for a minute. Let me go back to personal. You can create a collection that you either make public or share with members of your team, or you can go into the public resources. I don't have anything in there. It's not, I haven't added to the public resources, but anyway, I can add my own resource collection and then I can share it. I've got so many resource collections. I don't want to show how to do that right now, but I'll open up one example at the sharing examples, and I shared it with 4 people. I think this is it's with my team. And then so I have a folder, and let's say instead of just that one folder, I want to share everything that I just did. I want to share all of my content in this sample course materials. Ignore the fact that this has a bunch of other junk below it. I did a lot of work, put this all together, and I want to share this all. I can just go over here, gear, save to resources. And do you remember that collection? It was called Sharing Samples. Ignore how many I have. That's a lot. But I'm going to look for my Sharing Samples collection. And then I can either put it in a folder or I can leave it out. I'll hit save a copy. And now everything that I shared in that folder, or that I created and customized and edited and made better in that folder, did it go? It might take a minute. There's a lot of content. Oh, it says sharing samples. Sorry, I put it in this one. All right, it's all the way down here now. But even the image that I attached to that folder, this went right over with it. So now everybody who has access to that, and I want to put it in the right collection. So excuse me. Save to resources. This collection, it was called Sharing Examples. Yeah, I'll put it in there. Sharing Examples. There we go. Excuse me. Here we go. So now that whole collection is there, and that means that everybody that I've shared this with now has access to be able to pull this over to their courses and customize the same way. So I encourage you to share everything that you create, at least with your teams, if not with your whole school or even the district, so that you're aware those school pages that appear in Schoology, like Woodford, for example, I'll use theirs because I know he won't be mad at me. If I go down to the Woodford School Collection, the only person who can edit those resources are the principal and the AP, if there is an AP, or up to 4 people that they select as school page editors. So all you'd have to do to share with your whole school is either share it with your principal or AP, or find out who your principal might be designating as one of those 4 people who can edit this. And then you can have a folder on your school page that, that all teachers in the entire building can get to. If you have something that's awesome and you want it shared out with the district, let me know. Let our team know, and we'll look at it. Our team has been working a lot with the curriculum and instruction team, but the Cincinnati Public Schools collection, that's where I have the 4 teachers, templates, and materials you can use now. So as we are working in Schoology, we want to look at using content that's already been created, like I showed you in the items I pulled over, whether that's Schoology created content or if it's curriculum content specific like Pearson, versus creating everything. Don't reinvent the wheel. Look for what's already out there that you can pull over. And then when you pull over resources, whether it's from a group or a school or even just a team, customize and edit that to meet your learners' needs. So I'm going to put the contact hours and feedback form, and then I'm going to open us up for our last few minutes of questions. Here we go. All right, I'll walk through this real quickly with you as you're filling out your contact hours and feedback. If you want to get contact hours, you do have to make sure your first, last name is in there and your employee ID. You don't have to put it. Matter of fact, I don't know why this is marked required because it's not required. So if you don't want to put it, just maybe put NA. So I don't know who changed this to required. Oh, that's okay. 9. I'll have to look into that. This has not in the past been required. You're not required to turn in. If you don't turn in your employee ID number, then you don't earn contact hours. All right. Today, what did we cover? We covered Schoology. That's really all we covered. You mark your school. And then today is June 18th. You attended a noon session. The type of training this was join a virtual PD session. Unless you're watching my recording later. If you're watching later, it is viewed a recorded PD session, virtual PD session. So join a virtual PD session if you're here with me live now. So that click that. This was 30 minutes to 1 hour. And my name is Rosemary Jane. So select my name. You'll rate this, the effectiveness of this PD session, give any additional comments or questions you might have, and then there are some links to some other resources. I always like to point out, please send me a copy of my responses. We have over 6,000 submissions to this already, so please request your own copy of your responses. Every now and then people will message me and say, did you get my feedback? And it's too much for us to go in and look at over 6,000 responses. So please check that to get your own responses emailed to you. Yep. So Eileen, I just answered that. Yep, it's in there. As of now, until we're past this COVID time, yes, that is actually one of the training options, and these are always linked in my YouTube channel. So view to recorded virtual PD session. I'll just show you how you access that real quick. If anybody has questions about the content I just shared, please go ahead and unmute and ask that now, because I'm just answering a question about contact hours. Virtual trainings and professional development, that's where I put these hour-long ones. So if you go to like this one, for example, in the chat transcript, so the information below the video is important. There's a little message from me, a link to the schedule of our PD, and then right there is your contact hours and feedback form. So you just click on the link and it opens the same thing. So yeah. Oh, no oops needed. All right, any questions about the content I covered on the agenda? We covered a lot of stuff. I really breezed through adding instructional material because that was more of the creating side. And I'm sort of sharing this with you as an advocate for use instead of create. By all means, use your creative expertise. And you guys are an amazing district of creative people. I've seen incredible things produced by you. So you can create, but just look at what you can use, and then you can enhance, refine, modify by customizing it through editing it for yourself. I always say to people when I share things out that I don't care if you use it, make it your own, but hey, if you make it better, let me know, share it with me. And so if you ever do take something that we've created and you know that you made it a whole lot better, maybe just send that person a direct message and say, I pulled your resource off of Schoology and here's what I did with it. Because I do want to show you that it actually tells you who added it. So on here, I can see that Megan Safko-Preslin added this. It says added by you. For you, it will say added by Rosemary Jane. And so you can see like Deborah Crawford. So you can direct message those people. So like if I pulled something from Megan's stuff that she created, which if you are an elementary teacher, she's got a great sample elementary course here with tons of stuff in it. You can always write to Megan, just click her name, send her a message and say, hey, thanks, I used this resource and here's how I made it better, or here's how I changed it to work for Montessori, or whatever specific things you did, pay that forward when you're using resources. Do that for your team members as well. Eileen, I might not be the only one, but I keep taking tidbits, an hour here and there on Schoology. I feel like I need a week-long sequential training on Schoology from start to finish. Yes, okay. I agree with you on sequential. The only thing that I have on my YouTube playlist that is sequential right now has to do with the Distinguished Educator Stage 1 support. This is sequential. Well, I clicked the wrong link, sorry. Oh, playlists. Here we go. So this one is sequential and it takes you through statements in the Distinguished Educator. Eileen, I will do my best to organize a playlist better to sort of make it open with the basics and then advance you through. That's something I can do to help make my YouTube playlist better for you. So thanks for the feedback. Yep. I can't promise when I'm going to get it done. I don't think I'm going to get it done this week. My week is very full right now. And I'm going on vacation Monday and Tuesday next week, but soon. And I'm going to be doing a little work on my YouTube channel today. So I'll see what I can do, at least to get you guys what I feel like of the recordings that I have in a sequential order, because I do have ones that start with, here's the basics of Schoology. I don't tend to do basics that much, but I certainly want to help you out. So I feel your frustration. It can feel very disjointed. All right. Happy to help in any way I can. Any other questions for the good of the order, or just an individual question? There's only 6 of us in here. I'm going to stop the recording.